Independent? What's he registered as?
Huh?
What's he registered as?
All the veterans, yeah.
I thought he was registered independent. I don't know. I don't know. That's not my lane.
No.
Not my lane. But
I didn't hear what you said.
how are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I gotta make it larger,
I
read
want
it.
a copy. Do we have a
Enter
copy
your
of
access
anything?
code or meeting number
Make sure I
followed
take
by
that.
pound.
Yeah, we don't.
I'm gonna use that on the campaign trail.
If you are the meeting host, enter your PIN followed by a pound. If you are not the host, press pound.
Yeah.
You have entered an incorrect access
Where's
code or
442?
PIN, or you have not set up a PIN for your
Hi, Flitzer.
What up? I mean, there's a
Everything that we used the last time.
Oh, yeah.
He's doing good.
Let's try that one number on the bottom. Why did we write it?
Saturday night.
Chief know? Does the chief know?
Yeah, I
College.
Know where 442 is?
Okay. Okay.
you saw the one Adam sent me. Chief, I'm not
Because you weren't supposed to do anything on the computer, right? It's
No,
there and then.
It says the PIN is 4 digits.
We put
Because I'm here.
The pre-annexes.
Welcome
They
to
have to
WebEx.
stay in the pre-annex until they have to annex.
I think it's pretty
see?
much limited, because it's gonna be different in every case.
Okay.
Like,
If you are the meeting
you know,
host,
if it's gonna create an island, they're not allowed to annex. They gotta wait until there's a connection to
think
be able to do
Mark
that.
was
So it's
gonna
gonna
do
be different in every case,
enter your access
but I think it's
code or
pretty
meeting
much
number followed by pound.
Okay, the last time we did it, these
Yeah.
numbers work. Now
No,
they don't work.
annexations, but how long is the pre-annexation?
the same thing.
I don't know.
I mean,
And we don't
it's,
get the money, it's like the sales tax and
We've got
for
3
that.
people
Correct.
calling in.
it's just,
I'm
it's
trying to do a
contingent on the
WebEx
circumstances, and
calling
every
thing.
circumstance is gonna look a little different.
And then who would,
Can you,
so on the houses are
what other option do we have?
it seems like we're building a
They
high
can't,
commercial.
3 of them,
I'm not
3 of them.
You gotta show me how to make it so I can't be tagged
No.
by everybody.
What's up, dog?
One day.
There, as long as there's
Okay,
a
one
way
day.
and it doesn't create an island, then it's okay.
Where's the tan? Was I stayed inside the hotel?
Why don't you take it?
Can you sign
I wear
in
SPF 50.
on the website?
I wear SPF 105.
I went to Kiowa, whatever it's called. Went to Kauai.
Got him those things that were on the
Hello,
table.
you went to Kauai,
Having
whatever?
technical
Kauai,
difficulties
it's called
with the
Kauai.
web.
No, I can never say the word. Yes, that's what I'm going to March.
It was lovely. We got it warmed up for you.
Good.
That's what's gonna happen. And
Well, I mean, we've given,
Okay,
the numbers would be more like that if we hadn't had the stations. I mean, if we had always had the
yeah,
stations.
what she's trying to get in front.
Oh my God, I love her.
It's not, the numbers we used the last time
was up there.
are not working.
It's Sparky, did you have fun?
Yeah, it does.
Bring stuff back for us to learn from?
So she could be on hold.
I would've went, but I'm dealing with
What makes her
Christy.
hook into.
Tomorrow's surgery.
No, I got a visit from your boss.
Oh, I hope she gets.
So-
You know what? From your boss.
So she has her a 4-hour surgery tomorrow. She'll get
God bless her.
Everything goes well.
earliest is Wednesday. Earliest is Thursday, but more like Friday.
I was telling her afterwards.
Thank you so much.
She goes, oh, you have to go to this one.
I got a question.
It's strategic plan.
The picture on your sign's bigger than yours.
I forgot because I had to do
I thought the same.
We were making jokes. I stood next to it, and I was like, "It's original and extra crispy." Like that, it was like me, and then I had the
It
small
looks
one.
like, since it's only from here up, it looks like it's actually bigger than
I I think it would be if I had the whole body printed out.
The first time I saw her, I was, wait, we can't get these out to the 8th. Girl, your picture's everywhere. Are you sure? She's like, yep.
I just don't.
Double check
You
my
went
law.
so big. And then I called the axe throwing place. I said, hey, after the election, I might have some signs we can put up. They look good, though.
I was waiting to see if I got mustachioed when I got home, but or like devil horns or something. Or,
Give me a minute. I mean, no, I don't think they will.
don't know.
They will. Some of them, they just never, they put them up before the primaries, they just never took them down. There's some half up, half down, that's the part I hate. But I've noticed the local elections, them signs are getting big. Rachel got some big signs, you got some big
We have,
Leah got big signs
Well, I
coming
didn't have to
up.
get yard signs this year.
Yeah, that was smart. Mine have 2018 on them.
I just bumper stickered my old ones.
Then
Yeah,
you threw
upstate.
re-elect on there. I'm sorry. Why'd you throw re-elect? You went through all of them, slapped re-elect on.
Oh, yeah.
Does that help?
It updated them, and I could reuse them. Cover up the old stuff.
I just put vote.
We'll see.
And it's $20 for
Hello, who's there?
yard
But
signs
some
cost
people
now.
don't re-elect.
Okay, Marta, we're on. Okay. Oh, hi, Victoria.
Watch the
Okay.
resurfacing of State Route 92 sound. It was so fast. I don't know how they did it.
I don't know either.
It was
Okay, good.
But it was, they were in and out in like 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I guess it's possible.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
drive down that way much.
I took a new extension
I
today.
brought this up tonight.
Oh my.
They gotta
I took
fix that
Maggie
though.
on it on Saturday.
Marcus. They gotta fix it.
Is this Marta Mesmer?
I have Marta and
Oh, 'cause you know
Victoria
it's
on
coming.
the
We went to
Gotta
Target
fix it.
and then we had to.
If you ever see
No,
them.
we went over to
They don't say what the
Chipotle
job
for
is.
lunch, and I'm like, I gotta
It's
show you
true.
something. Like, you know, I usually don't go to
Oh,
on a
Mark
Saturday.
will be here in 5.
So why am I driving to the Walmart parking lot?
Oh, yeah.
And
It's got
right.
it.
She's like, oh wait. She's like,
Lucky I don't normally have this.
so for my presentation next week, where it comes candidate oriented,
Time did he text you, Carolyn?
the department.
I didn't respond, so he texted you after I didn't respond.
He probably did those.
Thank you. I think to come to you guys like.
When I
Amazing.
Birthday. How's Liv doing?
It's like, this is like
Sometimes your class.
it's not hard.
But I have to go get my stuff. And I want to like do my things before I start.
Is this the first one?
No, it's not.
Oh yeah, I saw John Gardner driving
She's
on
over
it.
there with some other girl.
And I was like, yeah, how much
I don't know the other girl. Not the
dark
new
hair?
one. Yeah.
to get
Not
to
the
their
new
job
girl,
site,
but
come from the
I don't know if she's
PCC
doing that.
and get to their job site. So much easier.
She has dark hair, and that has to be jelly.
Yeah.
I know if I had a picture.
She's not mean you, but she's kind
You know the newest girl I'm talking about, right? What's her name? Long black hair.
Oh, that's jelly.
And a whole list of, I mean, I never done
Discuss that,
either.
we're gonna discuss that.
Okay, I was wondering if,
Yeah, I got a nice.
I'll tell you what I think we need to do.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
You
I'm
guys should make that decision, that's what we're talking about today.
okay, I meant the other ones that you asked about
They've
in
been over there
email.
working on the human. I get it.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
How cool that is.
Was it 10, 11?
Yes, I have them both on there, right?
I was walking up the stairs, went,
Right, it's time.
Okay, yeah, I have them both on there. Justin tried to call you to let you know that.
The work session for the Sierra Vista City Council for 6 September 2022. I need to know who we have on the phone. Marta, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have Councilwoman Mesmer. Assistant City Manager, are you on the phone?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
All right, anybody else on the phone? Okay, so for the record, we got more than enough to run the operation. I'm told that Mr. Rodriguez will be here shortly, so.
Okay.
He's gonna call in too, but I guess he hasn't.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there'll be an attorney with regards to the last item on the agenda. We'll be calling it as well.
The last item is future discussion items?
Or, I mean, on the council agenda for Thursday,
Okay, on the last item for the on the
IDA.
agenda, okay. I got you. Okay, so we'll start with the council agenda. And obviously, we'll start as we normally do with the call order, roll call, invocation, pledge. Item 1 is acceptance of the agenda. Then we have the city manager's report. Mr. Petichik, is there anything on the city manager's report you'd like to share with us today?
Well, right now, we'll have a JPA meeting for CCOM with the sheriff Thursday morning, so I'll be able to report to you on that situation. I'm sure staffing will be the major topic of discussion at that meeting. And I mean, I'll have a few other procurement-related items, but don't have them yet, so.
Okay, any questions from Mr. Petichik? All right, then, item 2 is the consent agenda with two sub-items, discussion of possible action of approving the regular city council meeting minutes and the special city council meeting minutes. Any questions or discussion on those 2 items?
No.
Okay, should be pretty routine. We then move on to new business, and the discussion of possible action on ordinance 2022-04 South City annexation. Is Mr. Fisher here to, Mr. Fisher, if you'd come forward and brief us, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Mueller, members of council. Today, we have step 3 of 3 in the formal annexation process for the South City annexation. This is the final required meeting to establish the annexation via ordinance, and it is not a public hearing item. For a brief recap, the South City annexation area, as defined in the legal map, which you can't see here, but it should be shown here on the DocServe. It consists of 19 general business zone properties, totaling approximately 67 acres of 19 properties. 5 are undeveloped, 1 is for utility services, 3 are quasi-public religious services, 2 are industrial, 2 are mini storage, and 6 are retail/office space. Areas defined for annexation were largely depicted in the city's long-term annexation map, which was approved by council in 2008. The city currently possesses 8 pre-annexation agreements with the annexation area, which are of sufficient quantity and value to effectuate the annexation via ordinance. Following approval by council and the required 30-day ordinance waiting period, the annexation officially takes effect. Staff will ensure the county recorder and other relevant government agencies, as well as the affected property owners and businesses, are notified of the change of jurisdiction. Thank you.
Questions from Mr. Fisher? Yes, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I'm gonna ask this correctly. So in the annexation area, how many, once this 30 days pass, how many, these businesses will be annexed? How many people still have pre-annexations?
Councilmember Benning, we still have 2 pre-annexation agreements that are not included as part of this annexation area. These are Deborah and Frank Gunning that own these 2 properties here, as well as Glen Street Properties, which owns this very large parcel here. They could not be included because it would close off the Golden Acres, which would be a violation of state law and annexation law.
Can't create an island.
Can't go, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think that cleared up in my head.
Okay. Any other questions?
One more, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you're next.
And are we reaching out to the landowners, the private landowners, the residential, excuse me, I know I get the word out here in a minute. Are we reaching out to residentials that would connect and see if they want to annex or no?
Councilmember Benning, if you're speaking about the residential landowners on the south side of Glen, we did not reach out that far. We only reached out to the auto zone that was adjacent to the Veritas.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The one business owner that sent in the message, the email saying he wasn't aware, what's the latest with that?
Councilmember Rodriguez, that was the Pima Plaza.
Right.
Which contains the Almadoros Dance Studio. We have not heard any follow-up comments following the initial comment that was received for the public hearing.
Okay.
All right. Was that not a tenant instead of a?
Yeah, it was a tenant, I think, not at all.
Yeah.
That was, apologies, Mayor Mueller, that was Gary Siegel. He is the owner of Pima Plaza.
Yeah, he's the owner,
Okay,
right?
so, but he did receive notification, right?
Mayor Mueller, that is correct.
We have
yes.
followed the proper notification policies.
Mayor Mueller, that is correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Blake. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to item number 4. Amendments to the Saletta agreement,
Salida agreement.
intergovernmental agreement, and that's
Chief Thrasher.
Chief Thrasher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the agreement that was approved in June regarding our participation in the academy with Cochise College and Cochise County. This is an amendment that was offered by both the college and the county to the agreement. The only two changes to the agreement that was approved in June would be to allow the county to be reimbursed for an additional recruit training officer that they provide, and also reducing the cost of the academy by eliminating the $2,500 recruit program fee. This is being eliminated as the state legislature did fund Arizona Post to reimburse for academy recruits, which had been anticipated not to happen. So those are the only two changes regarding that agreement before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chief Thrasher? Yes, sir.
In my packet, and I brought it to the clerk's attention, that I only have the First Amendment,
Correct.
which eliminates the 11-8, which reimburses the county for the overtime. But I don't have the one for the $2,500 one.
That should be paragraph 10 in that agreement.
Yeah, it's not updated for us.
updated.
Okay. I'll have to take a look. That was part of the agreement that was sent over.
Okay.
So it was in the agreement that I had sent over. I'll look
Joe,
at
we
it.
need to make sure we've got that before.
We'll make sure
Thursday.
that's included Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Work that out.
Wow, the same. Mine was the same.
Okay. Any other discussion on item number 4?
None.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 5, again, Chief Thrasher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the annual grant that we received for the Governor's Office of Highway Safety for DUI abatement and aggressive driving. This grant provides reimbursement for overtime in the amount of $21,536 and employee-related expenses of $8,414 for overtime for the DUI deployments. In addition, this also provides reimbursement for equipment, in this particular case, a portable saliva drug test kit that will be used as a test to see how that works out in the field.
Wow.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the chief?
So I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
The test you just pointed out, is it Sotoxa? Is it
Sotoxa.
so that's different than what we had used in the past.
So
right?
we currently don't have a portable drug testing test for out in the field. We have a portable breath tester for alcohol only. So this one's for drug use.
So, well, I guess since it's different than a breathalyzer, it's gonna be able to pick up more toxin. Like, what's it?
The breathalyzer will only pick up alcohol
Right.
that we normally have. This is for drug use.
So like marijuana.
Marijuana and some other drugs. I don't have the specifics. So.
And how's it administered, Chief?
It's just a saliva test through a Q-tip. I don't know the specifics on the exact use
We'll
of
take
it.
a saliva test and then put it in some type of agent?
Yes.
And if it turns a certain color?
I don't know the exact details, but that is the typical drug test that we use out in the field.
Okay.
And that's fast enough. They can just do it out in the
Right,
field.
and again, these are not,
Not
as the portable breath tester
cause.
are not admissible in court. It's just another field sobriety test that is
Okay,
used
okay,
to
great.
determine probable cause for arrest.
I noticed it was different than what we normally see this time of year when you get this grant.
Right.
So, great, thank you.
Go ahead.
On that, is that a miss? I'm not a miss. Is that, if they refuse it, do they get taken in or just?
No, that's part of the field sobriety tests.
Okay.
So as anybody can refuse the field sobriety tests, and the officer bases the decision of arrest whether or not they have probable cause based on driving and other behaviors.
Yes, sir.
Chief, how does this amount of the grant square with previous years? Is it the same or?
It's just slightly more, but about the same. It's just a little bit more on the overtime. Actually, it's a little bit more on the equipment as part of for the portable breath testers are quite a bit cheaper, obviously.
Now, with respect to the employee-related expenses, does that include PSPRS?
Only a portion, does not include the whole PSPRS reimbursement.
What portion does it cover?
It's just that's all they'll do. They'll do 50% max on PSPRS. It doesn't really include that as part of the overtime expenses under the DUI grant, which is included in Stone Garden, but not the DUI ones.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Back to the Setoxa. All right, two more questions I have about this, Chief.
Sure.
All right, so Councilman Benny kind of answered one. So you're saying it's gonna be part of the process now on your field deployed units. So you have a field sobriety test, which also includes the swab for illegal drug use.
Right.
All right. Now, when you say, I don't know, in the thing in the back, it said illegal drug use. It said legal and illegal drug use. So is there like how good is it to where it's going to say, well, you have some marijuana in your system, or is it you have this many nanograms, or is it?
It can't do that most of the time with nanograms. It's usually typically from the blood that's can only
Right.
determine that kind of stuff. So I'm not exactly sure the details on specifics on how, what exactly, I don't think it gives you a particular reading.
Right.
It will give you that there is evidence of,
Right.
as an example, with the portable breath tester, it'll give you a reading. So it'll give you a breath alcohol reading, but it's not one that's certified for court use.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of, so typically what would happen is if we were doing a DUI investigation, and if we smell alcohol
Right.
and they have evidence of impairment, you're arresting them for the alcohol and the alcohol only at that point. You may be able to determine that there are other drug use through a drug recognition expert and those type of things. In this particular case, you would be developing your probable cause to say they failed the field sobriety tests or not failed. They didn't do well on the field sobriety test to a point where it gives you probable cause. You give them a portable breath tester and they blow triple zeros. And there's indications that they have drug use. This would be one of those things that would be used at that point to determine whether or not, again, to develop probable cause. Even if that came up with negative, they still could get arrested for impaired to the slightest degree and go through a drug recognition expert exam at the police station.
Where it's blood instead of
The blood would be taken as part of the drug recognition expert, but the drug recognition expert comes in and they do a whole evaluation of them, and based on their training and their experience and their certifications, could determine what type of narcotic they're on or drug.
All right. So I know you say you're not sure what it tests for exactly yet. So I'm interested in finding out.
I will have that for you on Thursday.
And then since marijuana is legal in the state, I know there's obviously you can still be impaired just like alcohol is legal, but so I'm just concerned about how that would happen if somebody's not under the influence, but it's in their saliva, and obviously.
So again, it would have to be they would have to show impairment on the
Yeah.
field sobriety test to be arrested.
Okay. I know.
Right.
Good.
And I'm gathering from the conversation, it's not just THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana, but also other things like barbiturates and fentanyl and opioids and et cetera, that you get an indication that there's a presence.
I will have to double check to make sure which ones specifically are being tested.
Yeah,
for
but
this.
I mean, it's more
It
than.
would be
I'm
more than
assuming
just
it's more
one.
than one.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I think probably unfortunately it's not going to test for synthetic CBD, which
Well,
is worse.
it may not, that's why they have to go to the blood.
Yeah.
That's why they have to go to the blood tests.
Okay.
Question?
No, sir, I can get with them
I
later.
heard the cogs, I heard the cogs squeaking over there.
Just more interesting ideas or
They sounded pretty
interesting
rusty.
comments or questions. It's an interesting subject.
Maybe some WD-40.
Okay, that's it.
I ain't that old.
So that was item number 5. Any other questions for Chief Thrasher? Thank you, Chief. We now go to item number 6, I understand we have someone on the phone. And Mr., slaughter your name, Selena?
Slania.
Selenia?
Yes.
Okay, would you?
This is Michael Slania. Yes, counsel to the Sierra Vista IDA, and here to answer any questions.
Would you present what we're doing here, please?
Absolutely. As you will recall, the Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority, in order to issue its bonds, needs the approval of the members of the mayor, and the city council of the city of Sierra Vista for those bonds. In this case, these are what they call education facility revenue obligations. They're another form of bond, and the reason they're called obligations is because they're being purchased directly by a bank out of Colorado called NBH Bank. They are looking to finance a new building for Paideia Academies, which is a charter school. It is on land that Paideia Academy already has 2 of its facilities on, so they are just looking to build a new building on their existing land. So it's going to be a direct loan between the bank and the school, going through the Industrial Development Authority so that they can get a better interest rate. The Industrial Development Authority receives an issuer fee on all of the bond issues that it issues. In this case, they will be receiving 7 basis points for every year that the bonds are outstanding. It's not going to be an upfront as it has been in other transactions. This will be at least 7 basis points or a minimum of $3,000, depending on the amount that is finally issued, for every year that the bonds are outstanding, the revenue obligations are outstanding. There is, again, no obligation on the part of the Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority or the city for any support for these bonds, and you're not pledging any part of the credit of either the city or the Industrial Development Authority for these. The pledge is limited to the borrower, in this case, Paideia Academies.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions?
Just
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Just a quick one, counsel. With respect to the finder or the origination fee, what is the anticipated amount that the Industrial Development Authority will receive?
Again, it's 7 basis points. I would estimate they're looking on the low side, so it's going to be about $3,000, maybe a little bit more per year for a minimum of 5 to 7 years. At that point, the bank may turn around and either refinance, or the school could choose to refinance. But the bonds will be issued in a longer term, which could be up to 20 years. The statute would allow 40 years, but this particular borrower and bank don't want to go out that far. So after that initial 5 to 7 year period, it becomes a matter of negotiation between the two as to when they want to either redeem the bonds or refinance them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. I know the borrower borrowed bonds twice before, 88.3 million, 10.2. Are those going to be paid off, or are they still holding those notes?
No, the other bonds are still in existence. They are, the prior bonds were issued by the Industrial Development Authority of the County of Pima, but they were publicly sold, so a different entity owns them. These obligations will be on parity or equal pledge of collateral with the prior bonds, but the other bonds are still outstanding.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much, and I guess we'll hear from you on Thursday.
I will call it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next items would be call the public comments and requests of council, and of course adjournment. So that ends item A, I guess is what we call it today. And so we'll go on to Item B, the one-year strategic plan update. Mr. Paducci.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. I think Victoria's on the line. She's out ill today, but has agreed to go ahead and give you the presentation. Much of this you've heard, in the past couple of weeks anyway, but you have a new one-year strategic plan update, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Victoria. Is she there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm so sorry, Mayor and Council. I can't hear very well. I'm assuming you asked me to go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So there's been quite a bit of progress to date on the strategic plan. I'm happy to report, especially for such a fairly large strategic plan, and we're now halfway through this 2-year plan. There are a number of items that I marked complete this time, including initiative number 2 on reducing and mitigating unfunded liabilities in both of the city's retirement systems, the completion of construction of phase 1 of Fred Boulevard improvements. That was goal 6.2.1. Goal 6.2.4, expanding the West End redevelopment area and West Sierra Vista Partnership Program. That occurred earlier this spring. Excuse me. Goal 6.4.1, completing the site preparation of city-owned properties to airports. That was also completed earlier this spring. And goal 8.1, completing the joint resource utilization study. That wrapped up last month, and staff are just finishing the administrative details on that. So while there's a few initiatives that are behind schedule this time, I'm fairly confident that they'll all catch up in the next year. There is one behind schedule that I wanted to discuss with you today, and that's item 10.4.1, which is related to the Parks Master Plan and ensuring facilities meet the needs of the community they serve, particularly restroom facilities. And so the priority for installing restroom facilities, this was a budget item from last year. The priority was getting restrooms into the Domingo Paez complex first. And so staff proceeded with that goal, and when the original plan was to put 2 restroom facilities down at the complex with septic tanks, since the closest sewer location is up behind Oscar Room Community Center, and then a restroom to serve the pickleball court and the adjacent facilities there. So as engineering looked at that area and the analysis was done for the leach fields down at Domingo Paez, we were extremely surprised to find that the soil compaction test showed that the ground is too hard at both locations and that septic is not an option. And we also found that the cost of running sewer down to the Domingo Paez complex is estimated at about $200,000. So staff regrouped with that news and looked at a new plan and proposed installing, going ahead with the 1 bathroom that's adjacent to the pickleball courts and also the basketball court and the field right beside it, since the sewer line does go to that location. And then looked at 1 to 2 bathrooms over at the Veterans Park Sports Complex, which would be adjacent to the new football and soccer field in the Schneider Electric project, depending on the budget. So evaluation is currently underway on putting the bathrooms in at those locations, and then staff would plan to propose for next fiscal year budget to run the sewer line down to the Domingo Paez location and budget for the sewer line and the bathrooms there at that point. And I'll pause if there's any questions on that.
Questions?
How many sites were checked for this compacted soil? Is it? I'm trying to just see in my mind. I know where they were supposed to go, but I'm just thinking of all the areas that are around Domingo Paez where they. I'm just curious of how many areas were checked if they could have, or as alternate locations to support the softball, soccer fields down there.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me. However, I can tell you that in general, if you move a relatively short distance, it's not going to change. Usually it will not change substantially to make a site that is not acceptable for a leach field be acceptable. Those same problems will exist in the general area.
Okay. All right. This definitely affects our other goals when it comes to marketing our facilities, marketing our sporting fields. We don't have bathrooms. Nobody's going to want to have a tournament there.
So, but the thing is, we'll just shift and overcome, we'll get there.
Right.
It's just a matter of,
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, absolutely, we're going to get one in, but we had to regroup to look at where sewer was available in both locations. So the cost certainly would be less if we use septic, but longer term, it's always better to be able to hook into the sewer as opposed to using, a leach field and septic system there. So we're going to go ahead with the two that we have scheduled for this year, rebudget again, and then make sure we have the added sewer line, and then we should have all locations covered at that point.
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, Victoria?
Victoria?
Okay, so the other issue, I'm so sorry, I can't hear anybody very well.
It really is hard.
The other initiative of note that is behind schedule is the commission initiative, which is 17.1, and that's going to be discussed as the next agenda item. So the other particular initiative of note that I wanted to point out was 6.5.2, which is phases and funding plans for improvements at the Veterans Park Sports Complex. And this is primarily related to the Schneider Electric project and the improvements that are going on over there, which is the first phase of the implementation plan for Veterans Park Sports Complex. So that project kicked off in July and is underway. The first project is the rehabilitation of the well. A change was made to that project after council members asked that we look at the tennis courts in the sports complex earlier this spring when the project was presented, and whether their improvement could be included in the project. So after staff looked at this further, determined that the best course of action was to realign the tennis courts. They are not square to the field, and they're very close, which affects the placement of the lights and the placement of the track and field. And so those would be realigned and resurfaced, and the new basketball courts would be postponed to a future phase. So that also allowed for expansion of seating at the football and soccer field and a better overall alignment for those two projects. I'll pause there in case there's any questions.
Were those just tennis, not pickleball at all? Was considered
Tennis, yeah, that's tennis. The pickleball is in another location.
right. I know we have pickleball now, but
Yeah.
that where they're going to be refurbished is going to be just refurbished for strictly tennis courts. Okay.
That's correct.
Why can't we have them striped for both?
Well, because you have to put the poles, the courts are actually different, you have to put poles in different places. Sorry,
No,
that's a good question, though.
Laura can
Laura
address
can
that.
answer that. Sorry, Laura.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez. One of the things that we were looking at in our discussions with Schneider is if they could go ahead and plug the holes there so that we could dual purpose them. And that's a part that's ongoing right now within the scope. So possible that we'll be able to use it for tournament overflow in the future. It just depends on how the budget shakes out.
Okay. I think just me personally, the way I see pickleball going other places, right? Tournaments.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about the softball fields, like with a new bridge, we have an actual tournament where you have one court going on across the bridge and you swap courts. I think that'd be a great idea. If they can make that happen, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Now, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, and other members of the council, it's important to note that these changes that we're looking at are probably going to run in the neighborhood of an additional $800,000 over and above the initial bonds that you approved. So in order to affect this, we wouldn't be doing tennis courts or pickleball at all if we weren't considering doing this. But it may require the council to look at financing the 2 ambulances that are in the budget right now, and those will appear on your annual financing resolution here later this year as a potential source of funds. We may not need to do the financing if the budget goes well this year, but you can look forward to seeing that, assuming you want to proceed with the tennis court project.
Thank you.
And I know, based off talking to Victoria after we had the conference and we learned about all the potential grant money through competitive grants and the energy efficiency and conservative block grant program, there's other revenue we could try and get.
Yes, Mayor Mueller, Councilwoman Humphrey, we are absolutely looking at outside funding sources as well.
Anything else? Okay, Victoria.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. The final initiative I wanted to point out was 15.4, which is enhancing work with providers and implementing a plan to address homeless, mental health, and affordable housing issues. Hopefully you've been following the updates and the executive plan and covered in the newspaper, but the One Stop Resource and Referral Center has been fairly successful in its 6-month pilot. It served over 100 folks who were homeless or families with services, and funding to continue that program was included in the 3rd round of the CDBG CARES Act funding that was just received. And furthermore, the state included in its budget this year an appropriation for a homeless service grant pilot program. And Matt McLaughlin, in partnership with Better Bucks, recently put in an application to the Arizona Department of Housing for funding with a 50% local match to create a voluntary day labor program called Better Work to help homeless individuals with employment. And if successful, that program would start on January 1st of next year and be funded for 5 years, and the city would work with Better Bucks to administer the contract if awarded. So with that, I am happy and the rest of the staff to answer any questions, and thank you for your patience while I presented over the top.
Thank you, Victoria. Questions?
I just want to make a comment about the last thing she mentioned. Victoria, and Matt, thank you so much for, that's the most exciting part when I was reading this. I've heard about a typical program, a similar program like Better Work in other places, and I think there's potential for something really great in cooperation with Better Bucks too. That would be wonderful. So thank you for working on that and putting that together. But that's just what I wanted to comment on that because I was excited to see it.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, 2 things. Speaking of the conference we were at, League of Cities and Towns, Better Books. I talked about it to other cities, and some of them had never heard of it, and they're very interested and they'll be reaching out to do the same thing in their city. They're amazed at the progress, so that's good. Regards to the community thing we have, I went today, and I've been kind of checking out how that's going. And I know this says we've helped 100 people. I'd love to see the data on that, like who's gotten help and how, right? Just because, numbers are numbers, right? Is that based off of people that signed in? Because like when I went today, they asked me to sign in. I don't need to sign in. I'm not trying to skew those numbers, right? I want to know who's getting help because there's a lot of people. There was a lot of partners there, but I don't see a lot of people there, right? So that kind of worries me. So maybe we're missing out an engagement somewhere where we can get people, facilitate them to go in there. Hey, this is happening. Put the word out. Do you need transportation to get there? I know we've been doing it every month, but maybe, and some of the people I talked to that were there, they're obviously happy to help, but they're stretched pretty thin already, as like today's the same day they do food distributions and things like that. So maybe not once every month. It's kind of not overkill, but obviously if you help one person, right, that's great. One person is better than none, but I would like to see who's actually getting help from those things and what we can do better, because I don't see a lot of people really attending other than a lot of the staff. But I'd like to, and I know we have more people in the city in the community that need help. That's my concern with that, is the numbers, like the data. Where's that data?
Well, the question is how do you track the impact is what you're asking.
Right.
And just, people signing up on the sheet doesn't do it. I agree with you there.
Because I don't want our funding to go there.
I've been to a couple of them, and you can definitely tell the people that are working there and the people that are actually looking for help.
Yeah.
And the numbers are skewed, obviously, the agencies.
I want.
It's the other thing is this is still a new thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I've heard on a couple occasions, in fact, at the Joint Service Clubs last Friday, they basically, somebody said, hey, I got a lady that has an issue. She may be homeless in another month or two because her people she's living with are getting ready to sell. And they said, well, do you need to go here and the agencies all meet on same day. And hopefully they're getting the word starting to get out after being there for 6 months. So this is not something that's going to be overnight. It's going to have to be a considerable effort. Plus, you're absolutely right. We need to have a tracking either by individual agencies or somehow that we can determine whether it's effective or whether there's something else that needs to be done.
Yeah.
To help.
And I'm definitely not suggesting that we overstep our bounds as a city entity to say, hey, what are you doing? How are you spending? But it is CBDG money that we could be spending elsewhere. If it's not working out, I mean, we try, or maybe look at it a different way, approach it a different way, maybe relook at it and say, how can we affect more people?
Well, I think that the other thing too is the reason we started this is to do exactly what you just said, is we're trying to do something different.
Yeah.
Trying to find out what works and what can be effective. Matt, you look like you're about ready to jump out of your seat.
Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez, we do collect the data and have the demographic breakdown and the outcomes, and we'll provide that with your next council executive report. And depending on the time you go, it's maybe there's some lulls, in the window, and we are revisiting the time span of the event. We have had conversations with the providers about the frequency, should we go to every other month? And the consensus right now is to keep it monthly. The cost of the city is relatively low. It's about $1,200. And another point I'll make is, when we submitted our application to ADOH for the Better Work program, they expressed interest in potentially funding the continuation of Community Connect as an eligible cost under the grant. So they actually asked us to amend our scope and include that as part of our overall request. So we may be able to get some help from the state to carry that out beyond the initial pilot program and the CDBG CARES Act extension. Of course, we don't want to hold an event that's not reaching the population we're targeting. And the feedback I'm receiving is that we are making those connections, and we have the data to support that. And it may just be when you were there that there weren't that many people in attendance. It could be the month, but overall, the over 300 people, were reached through these events over the 6-month time frame, and 100 of them. More than 100 were homeless individuals, and some of them aren't on our radar. As Corporal Borgstadt mentioned in the article, we're seeing a lot more female homeless population show up at these events that we don't encounter on the street through the outreach team. So my recommendation would be to continue course unless there's data to the contrary.
Okay. Thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else?
No, Mr. Mayor, Matt answered mine. I was going to ask if we could get a briefing or if we could get the nonprofit to come in and talk to us about what they're doing, et cetera. But Matt said
I think Matt's got a handle on it. Okay.
Yes,
Any other discussion on this items? Victoria, anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Okay, any further discussion on council on this part of it?
One more thing.
Okay.
6.4.2, the market, right? Market in the airport. The business facilities edition, do we have that somewhere? Where it says, they're marketing our municipal airport in the most recent advertisement. I'd like to see, the advertisement,
Oh.
can we see it? Yes. Awesome. Yes. I'd love to see that thing. Thank you. And then, 6.3.2, they do a great job. Abatement, code enforcement, they do what they can do, what they have to do with, right? But it's frustrating because where it says nuisance properties ordered by the magistrate court, we just keep going in circles and circles with these same properties that when they're about to get to the magistrate court for someone to do, they magically show up with this money and it goes back into this cycle. And we have this I'm just gonna call them what they are, they're slumlords in our city with these same properties. And it's like we have no teeth, and I think it's just, I don't know what we can do, look into it, change ordinances, something to give it more teeth. We don't have any support from the state, obviously, on this legislation wise, because it's good to have things go in the property owner's favor, right? When it's like good stuff. But in this instance, we have no teeth when it comes to doing abatements that really need to be done. You can look all around the city and see lots of addresses, and you start looking at who owns them, and it's always the same people, which is very frustrating for me because those people that live to the left and right of them or have to look at that every day and are dealing with the stuff coming out of those properties onto their property is not what our citizens should be dealing with, especially when they're doing the right thing, I just don't know what else we can do other than relook at some code enforcement stuff on our side. I think citywide and city-wise, maybe that's where we can start. We obviously, we have two people that are doing an awesome job in there, and they're doing, like I said, they're doing with what they can, with what they have, and there's only so many hours in a day, and I get it. They're doing great things, but just things like that just frustrate me when it comes to seeing like this. Yes, we're on schedule, but we can do so much. There's got to be something more we can do when it comes to this part of our plan. That's all I have.
Well, we share your frustration, I know, Mr.
Well,
Johnson.
I just have a comment. I have some experience in this area because I'm the code enforcement and hearing officer for the county, and I hold hearings every other month on anywhere from 5 to 25 people that are in violation. Now, my job is to get compliance, but there's many times that people don't show up. I default them out, then it goes to the Superior Court, and then action is taken. So, taking Mark's suggestions, maybe we should take a look at these ordinances and see if we can put some teeth. Take it away from the JP Court, because people know how I feel about that. But, get it over to the Superior Court. It might be possible, but.
Well, it sounds to me like we've identified another objective for our next strategic plan. So I would ask you to keep that in mind.
Yes, sir.
The owners, they play the game. They play the game forever. They don't have to get by it.
I've had,
we got a
Mr. Benning, I've had owners play the game with me, and they still end up in court with fines and fees, so that's.
We got to figure a better system. Check.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the other thing too is, although you correctly point out that we don't have a lot of help from the state in regards to this, I still think it's worth our while to take a look at some of the state laws and see if there's a way we can get something through the legislature that helps us with regards to that, because that's really the genesis, of where our ordinances come from as well. So, I think that's something we need to look at, and we have lobbyists that can help us push that, and we're trying to set up a meeting with your legislative delegation here, probably in the December timeframe, and that's certainly something I think that the council can bring up with them for next legislative session.
Great.
Thank you.
Get it done.
All right, and I hear nothing else on this item. We'll go to the next discussion, which is on commissions. And Chuck, you want to kick this one off?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and do that. As Victoria mentioned, this is a strategic planning goal of the council to take a look at, our boards and commissions and what we're doing with them and go ahead with any changes if council sees fit. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about where to go with the board and commission format. As you're aware, the last iteration of changes to the boards and commissions basically divided them into regulatory and non-regulatory commissions, with the non-regulatory ones no longer then being appointed by the council, but under the purview of the city manager's office. So we prepared a report since January of this year, which kind of gives you an idea of how many of those commissions have active members, how many active members, how many have been, attending meetings for the various commissions. And without, going through blow by blow, it's clear that we have a number of underperforming commissions with regards to both membership and attendance. We do have a couple that do perform. And I think there are a lot of reasons for this. You wouldn't have made the changes in the first place if there weren't, things that needed to be addressed with the board and commission structure. But nonetheless, the reasons for this could range anywhere from just people not wanting to attend meetings anymore. COVID obviously played a factor during this time frame as well with regards to attendance. There may be a perception that since a lot of these commission members are no longer appointed by council, that maybe there's a feeling that they're not as important or anymore to the council. So that or to the city, and that's out there as well. It may be just an obsolete form of doing things, but there's a number of reasons why we're having some of these issues. Mr. Johnson sponsored an initiative for an economic development commission, and we spent months just trying to find people that wanted to even serve on that. And now we do have a commission since I just signed off on the membership. But for all these reasons and for what the report lays out, I do feel that I need to recommend further changes to the board and commission structure. Whether you want us to start pursuing that now or waiting to the strategic planning process early next year is of course up to council. But some of my thoughts I've been able to go over with some of you, and that pertains really to what they do and how effective they can be and what the council wants them to accomplish. I kind of look at it like, council is here, you're elected to set policy, you're elected to set planning, either through the strategic planning process, budget process, those kind of things, the resolutions and ordinances that you approve. Those are policy and planning issues. Under my office, it's really more operations and not necessarily, planning and policy. So, of course, we have staff that you pay to address operations and those kind of things. Planning and policy really get to the traditional things I think you're looking for from a board or a commission, which is, public input, expertise, another set of eyes looking at what we should do going forward. So I've talked with some of you about this already, but the thought then occurred to me that we have a general planning process coming up, and the state puts forward the elements of that general plan for the public to vote on. And we gave you another piece of paper which had our current commissions, the elements of the general plan, and then we kind of grouped those together and then looked at what the commissions or how they could fit underneath that. So For example, we have growth and development, which is a natural purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is already required by state law. You have community preservation and revitalization, which kind of the West End Commission is already involved in. Maybe that could be expanded to look at the broader issues of redevelopment, infill, housing, those kind of things. Economic vitality, you've kind of already addressed with the economic development, but we also have tourism and marketing, and public information. Those kind of things could fit under that general plan grouping. You have connectivity, which is transportation, streets, the bicycle and pedestrian paths, other transportation like the transit system. We don't really have a neat fitting commission for that area. Other than the airport, fitting into transportation. But that probably fits in better under public facilities and services in the general plan, where you have a number of areas that could fit in there to include parks and recreation, commission on disability issues, arts and humanities, library, airport, and those kind of things. Some fit neatly, some don't fit quite as neatly. Some, and of course environmental, you have environmental affairs currently in that area. Some, like the Airport Commission, you have airport users out there. They're either parking their planes, fueling their planes, those kind of things, and might be better suited to have the Public Works director meet with the users group to go over issues that they may have, in terms of general aviation. But in other areas, we're really talking about the master planning process with FAA. Unfortunately, that only occurs every 10 years. So 5 if, there's amendments or whatever. So, what does the commission do in the meantime, when we really need them for those purposes? Maybe, and I'm just using this as an example, maybe it's best that the council sets up a task force for those purposes when they come due. So we have different situations with the different commissions that we have now. But I think if there's a way that we could fit in their tasks and duties and responsibilities with the overall general plan, strategic plan, and budgeting process that we have, I think, commission members would feel more like they were involved in the overall city, processes that we're engaged in, and I think find more relevancy in their work and hopefully be more helpful to you as council members, because that's really what we're talking about here. If they were working on things that we know the public wanted to do, what you wanted to do in the strategic plan, and ultimately get done in the budget. So that's my presentation on it. I think there's more work that still needs to be done, but we really need to hear, of course, from you, because they're your commissions ultimately, what you want to see out of them, and we're certainly open to any and all ideas with regards to how we can better make these commissions function on behalf of you and the public.
Comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad we finally getting to sit down and talk about this. When we looked at these back before January and we set things in motion, our goal was to look at our commissions, eliminate some if we didn't need them anymore, or find out what we needed as a council. And I'm to blame too. I think we all sat up here and we loved the liaison that we were with our commissions. We loved the commissions we supported, so we didn't want to get rid of them. But the problem turns out, and I'll just the one up on my screen, sorry, the Tourism Commission, for instance, they're sitting in meetings in July asking, what do we want to do? So do we as a council, and I agree with Chuck, operations don't need a commission to tell them what policies we do, what we should bring. We as a council need certain things when we say we want to focus on tourism. Let's hear what people think, what the city thinks, and start this commission to answer these questions for us. So we give them a task, purpose, and a mission, and they help us by talking to the community, being out in the community. And then when that commission or that process is over and tourism is improving and we're doing good and we're doing the things we need to do as a council, and staff is operating like they operate and they're doing the things they have to do, now we have a commission that says, wait, staff's doing a great job, tourism's increasing, we don't have nothing to do. So that's when we have to go back to that commission and say, do we need a tourism commission? If not, well, maybe not, because now our strategic plan has shifted in 2 years. Now this is our focus. Well, let's get a commission for this. Economic development, I asked for a sit down. Greg brought up that we needed a commission and wrote up his commission what it was. And during the time we had COVID was crazy, businesses were going out of business, people were struggling. So we needed to find something and get help at the time to help with that situation. And I think if we look at the commissions that same way, and under the categories that Chuck brought up, we're better serving the people of Sierra Vista. Instead of just saying, hey, we have an ED commission that's gonna work with Tony, and any goals or anything that we're trying to find, any mission we have is out the window. So why do we create it? Tony could have easily said, hey, I want to start a commission. Chuck, can I start it? So it's not our commission. It's the staff's commissions. We have 2 commissions, regulatory commissions, but we don't have, I don't want to say truth finding, but research and information gathering commissions that help us as a council. If we want to take on a project or we have a strategic plan like we just talked about, where we need to find out information, there's more information than just us alone, not in a quorum could do, where we need a commission, that's when we form these commissions. And then once that strategic plan, we go through every year, every 2 years as we're going, hey, here's our 6-month update. Here's our 1-year update. This is what we're accomplishing as staff. Then they do an amazing job. So our focus then has to switch. If we don't start switching our strategic plan every 2 years and we have the same thing, we're not doing something right. Our commissions have to follow what we as a staff need, as we as council and mayor need to answer the questions we have for the public, for the community. So if we align, and we don't have to keep the same. We don't need culture, and it just because it just popped up. We don't need culture diversity commission. We should have that in all the things we do. So we should be including culture diversity in our arts and humanities. We should be including it in the West End. We should be including it into certain things we do. And those commissioners, when they come, should be looking at that anyway. So it's a matter of what do we as a council want to form these groups to accomplish, instead of, Matt, here's 5 people to help you with city development that Matt may or may not want it. And no, I'm just, because you're right in front of me. So that's what I wanted to say quick, and I'll be quiet for now, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. And Mr. Mayor, I know other council members want to chime in, but William brings up a good point, because a really good example is like a fair. Okay, it doesn't matter which one. We'll pick on the West End Fair right now. So West End Commission was very involved in that. We have a West Side now. We have a West End Fair that's been institutionalized, in the city, resourced by the council in the budget process. So Laura has professional staff, and Matt, that know how to put on a fair, know how to do that. We don't really need the commission to help us put the fair on or anything. They did their job by saying, hey, we need to do this. We got the ball rolling, and now it's resourced and part of our normal work process. So, that's just an example of when you task a commission to do a certain thing or an event or whatever, it kind of starts losing its steam after a little while. But that's just an example.
Who's next, Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at the printout that we were provided, I looked at the notes, I looked at the number of participants. Some are really going like gangbusters. But I wonder what one member of the Library Commission does. Do they have anybody to talk to, or are they there by themselves? I'm being facetious now, but seriously. But I also went to in preparation for today's meeting, I also went to our website, which I think is fantastic. And I looked at the commissions, and what seems to be is what they were supposed to do. But I didn't really see a mission statement. And you were talking about that, Will, about what is their mission, okay? But I didn't see any mission statement. It's about, the airport, worries about the airport, and, there was no meat and potatoes to what a commission should be doing. And I think it's
Rick,
important.
I gotta say that if you go back to the enabling legislation, you'll find that. However, it's not on the website like that. So,
Well, I was going to say that as well, Mr. Mayor, because, that's the information that people see if they're going to volunteer for one of these. They're not going to go back to the enabling legislation on all these commissions. And, I look at the Youth Commission, I understand young people are busy on their tablets and their smartphones and sports and whatnot. So I don't know what possibly a youth commission could possibly do. The Airport Commission is active, of course. Arts and Humanity, there's a lot of since we realigned these things, and I was not part of that, people don't feel that they're, as you said earlier, Chuck, they don't feel that they're important. And I think that when we reach out for community involvement and community activism, we have to have this work. We can't let it sit too long. So that's just my comments. I'm sorry if I went too long.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out, Mr. Johnson brought up two real good examples to the Library Commission, which started years ago as a library board, which is in statute, that you could have a library board. They would actually theoretically be running the library. And then that changed to a library commission, which would put it on the same footing as your other commissions, and therefore did not run the library anymore. And of course, there was a lot of angst about that. And now we're to the point where the library is in Laura's department and really is more an operational thing than we're not talking about banning books or and all that.
There's
kind
no
of
policy
thing.
involved.
That kind of thing. Arts and Humanities, we had an Art in Public Places program. I guess we kind of still do, and we do have some things with regards to public art, but their main focus was the Mayor's Arts Awards every year. So there's an example of an event that they were doing and just kind of lost steam over time. So how many years in a row are you going to do the Mayor's Arts Awards? I guess. But I just want to point that out because he mentioned that. So
I think it was 28, Chuck, but I may be wrong.
28, something like that. Yeah.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir, thank you. Obviously, commissions, we definitely need them for certain reasons, right? And one being just recently, right? When we started looking for council openings, things like that. I mean, we look at those people that participate in those commissions, how they're giving back to our city, or people that maybe want to run for office one day and not sure how to start. I think it's a great start. Get involved in a commission, right? And so we saw that when we went to the process, and that was we saw that as something we looked on that highly and favorably for some that was on these commissions because they're actually doing something out there in their free time and making things work like that throughout various commissions. So obviously they're important, right? We don't want them to be some self-licking ice cream cone that just sits there and the meeting happens and nothing ever comes about it, right? So obviously. And we all have our own things that we're passionate about, and we're all trying to get, since we don't have wards and we're a city at large, we all try to figure out where we can best plug in, right? We're only so many people, we can't be at every commission. So I think us as a council need to, without doing anything open meeting law-ish, just kind of look at what's important to us and where can we affect these and where can we support them, right? Don't touch my youth commission because I'll cut your arm off. We're getting that. We're working on that. Right, me and the mayor went to Buena High School, talked to the principal, and we got some steam there. I got some emails while we were in Phoenix last week. Some youth that are interested, and just seeing the youth delegates from other cities that I've talked about before over and over. I saw them again this past week. doing amazing things. And we have that same youth talent in the city that's doing projects and that leads to other things. And it's just, we need to really showcase what our youth is doing. And if anybody wants to say, well, there's nothing for our youth to do in our town, let's ask the Youth Commission. Hey, what do you guys want? You're the youth in our town. What do you want from your point of view? And let's walk you through the process of how that can or can't happen, or what it's going to take to get there, right? We got to have the youth involved from wherever they're at now, all the way through the process to when they decide to leave Sierra Vista and come back and give back and teach everyone. Like we have a lot of those people that have come through and given back to our city. And there is some bleed over, like you said, Will, throughout the commissions, right? For instance, I'll use an example: Parks and Humanity, Parks, Recreation, Leisure, Library, Park. All right. So we're talking about parks, naming parks, and then we have the cultural diversity that says, "Hey, you guys you were at the park meeting the other day. Have you noticed there's no parks or buildings named after females in Sierra Vista? Like, we got to get these people talking. Like, well, that's a good point. Let's look at the data. Let's look at how we name our buildings.
Although that isn't accurate.
Right. So things like that. But so were we talking over? Like, yes, it should be included in every commission, like you said. Like, all right, well, do we have a check block for every commission? Like, are we checking these blocks, or do we need a commission, or can we check them over in other commissions? You know what I'm saying? Because again, we don't want that meeting for no reason. And obviously, that one person that's showing up, it's important to that person for some reason. They're there for a reason. They keep showing up. So I'd love to talk to that one person and say, hey, how can we plug you in? How can we help? What are you passionate about? What do you need besides more people in your commission? And that's all I got.
Can I address, Mr.?
Real quick, then we'll go to the ladies.
You brought up, and it's good that you brought up the youth commission, and we were supposed to sit down, and because we still haven't nailed that down. I know you and the mayor and you and Councilman Rodriguez talked, but we haven't really nailed down what the youth commission even looks like. Which, talking to middle schoolers, the problem I think you have in high school is you may get them for a year or two, and like this, the spreadsheet says, very committed, that they're doing the things they have to do. But you hit them in middle school, they're sticking around a while, and they kind of know the best of both worlds. They know what they've been through at a younger age, and they think they know what they're going to go through. So I'd like to sit down and talk with you more one-on-one about a youth commission and bring it to everybody. But I think if we hit every genre, the younger ages and then the higher ages, I think we'll get a better youth commission, and then take it under our wings. Sorry, Ms. Mayor, go ahead.
Doctor?
Oh, yeah. I do like the idea of having task force, because sometimes there's not things to talk about, or not really, people just kind of meet and maybe there's not really a lot going on. So I think a task force is really good. You call upon them, like the bat signal, call upon them to go out and do things, get information, get public input, be a voice for people that care about that particular topic or item. And then kind of, if nothing's going on, then don't be doing your task force stuff. I think that's a really good idea. And I feel like there are some commission things that I feel like people could do like a neighborhood club, and they can be doing the same type of things. So there's a limit to what can be done. And I've attended a few different meetings, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's like there's people that have these good ideas, these good idea fairy people that come in, dump their ideas, and then just kind of go, and nothing really happens. And so having someone that is super passionate like that, like some of these people that are here every single time that are super passionate, and like the youth commission, like going to where they are. So where are the people that are passionate about certain things? Where are they at? So I don't know if there's some sort of like communication that's not like happening, or people don't really care, people don't have the time. It's like a volunteer thing. So if anybody gets discouraged, or if something happens, then they're going to be like, oh well, can't really do anything, so I'm just not going to go. So there's that. And just kind of like, I do feel like things could kind of like a courting and some things, which is not really a popular thing to say, but there is that kind of trying to formulate my idea. So I will wait, and then I will add some more in a minute.
Jack, one back.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on your comment there, because as you were talking, Dr. Landry, taking a look at my list and the general plan here, and I think when I look at our current commissions, and I look at the general plan categories, and I think about, well, some of them were just doing a fair, or some of them, an event, or, had a single purpose, like the library. It strikes me that our current commission setup is too narrow, and there may not be enough there, meaty to do. But when you look at the general plan categories, now you're talking about facilities and not the library, or you're talking, because you could be talking about sports facilities and that kind of thing. Economic development, marketing, citizen participation. P&Z has a broad area, with growth and development. So there's always something for them to do. But some of these others are in a very narrow area, or may fit a task force, type of situation, as Dr. Landry mentioned. So just throwing an idea out there based on your discussion. So.
I'm gonna go to Marta next. If you're there, Marta, you have any ideas you want to share with us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that I think some of the commissions could be combined. My only, if we combine them as is, we just have to be very careful that they're all, like the cultural diversity, that we make sure when we do events or something through the city that that has to be, just that, those cultures need to be identified for the event.
Okay. Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, Chuck, you mentioned it in the beginning of your presentation. Based off feedback I've heard of current commissioners and former commissioners, there is a feeling of maybe they're feeling less important. There's something to us having them sworn in, committing to a term, and then reporting directly, working directly under council. And like the Arts and Humanities Commission, that was a full commission up until and I know COVID also affected it, but I know that's part of it, and I like, and Angelica mentioned it again, what the mayor and Mark are doing, like going to where these people are that have the special interest, if we know how to find them. That might be a new approach that we can start taking. So yeah, and we did go into this knowing that we could flip it back I feel like maybe that's something we need to consider here. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna kind of take a different tact here. If you want to follow me, I'm gonna start with the Planning and Zoning Commission and work backwards. Obviously, there are some commissions that are functioning fairly well. I think because they got a clear mission, a clear understanding of their duties. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a regulatory commission, is one of those. Commission on Disabilities is a kind of a special interest group that still is addressing the shortcomings we have across the city to help the disabled community. And I think that is, and that's why they're there. They got the mission. They're focused, and I wouldn't recommend any changes on that. The next is the West End Commission. They've done a miraculous job in supporting a number of programs and working with staff. And we've still got some more work to do, but eventually I see that commission will, if it continues the way it is, it's going to work itself out of a job. And maybe it needs to morph into a community improvement commission or something else that would look at the entire city, not just the West End, for commercial redevelopment as well as for housing and improvements as well. So again, that's another one that has 5 people on a regular basis. Parks and Rec Commission regulatory, I don't see an issue there. They're continuing to work very effectively as a commission. Cultural diversity is interesting. I like the idea that we should have cultural diversity in everything. And I'm not sure why we would need a separate commission to do that if in fact we're able to integrate that. I do enjoy the cultural diversity fair, and whether we do that comes back, or we do it every 2 years or whatever. I think it's important to show not only everybody else but our community itself that we do have strengths across the cultures in the community and the background. So I do think that's important. But to me, that's one commission that maybe we may want to look at integrating into the rest of them. And again, it's just recently through, I'm trying to remember who was working with them. Arts or the Cultural Diversity, was that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to get the membership back up to speed. So I thank you for doing that. Arts and Humanities, Chuck's absolutely right when he said they're responsible for probably two things. One is the Mayor's Arts Award, which got them going, and the other one is our Arts and Humanities, or our City Beautification Program. Maybe put that. That's the way to put that. And I think that's important for both. And I'm not sure why people haven't gotten involved more deeply with that. I'm not buying the what I call the whining that we can't do our mission because we're not appointed by council. I think if people are interested and want to do good things, whether they're council appointed or whether they're appointed by the city manager, it doesn't make that much difference. The important thing is to get the mission done.
Yeah, it's probably something else as well.
Yeah, there's probably something else as well. So we need to look at that. Library Commission. I thought about this, and that was the first commission I was liaison to. Back then, we did help set policy within the library, but most of the routine things, with all the new computers and all the videotapes and all the other stuff that we had potential for social issues, that was all worked through, and they do great. The one member that's still there is doing a great job. But I'll tell you, they're good people. I don't think now that that's integrated more heavily with the Parks and Recreation and Library Department that it really needs an oversight or a public oversight. I think those kind of things can be held with once or twice a year, basically having an open meeting and having people come in. They have a great system whereby people can fill out comment cards, and those things are actioned and answered on a regular basis over there. So they're servicing the public in an effective manner, and I'm not sure we really need a library commission. The Youth Commission is a kind of a special thing, and in my mind, we want to, if we're going to ever have future leaders, we need to get them involved and let them know what's going on, and have them work on projects. And just so you know, we're not just talking high school, we're talking the middle schools as well. In fact, the middle school on post as well, if we can get in there. But the bottom line is, we're looking at not a set number of members to this like the others would be 5. We're looking at 2 per school, so that and meeting at times that are convenient for them to meet and those kind of things. So it's a very flexible type thing. But I think it's important for our youth to get involved and for us to understand where they're going, what they want to do. And I think tying that type of thing to, as Chuck suggested, to our long-range plan is also important. Airport Commission, I think that's another one where if the Public Works Director has a meeting with the Pilots Association or has liaisons to regularly, quarterly, or every 6 months to meet with those folks and talk about issues at the airport, and then we do the planning where we actually appoint some members to the 5-year or 10-year planning processes with the airport. I don't really think we need an airport commission itself if in fact we can do the liaison work another way. I think the next one is the Environmental Affairs Commission. I think they basically worked themselves out of a job. I I think we now have technical expertise on staff with people in the public works where we probably don't need a lot of outside experts, and when we do need outside experts, believe me, our environmental community will let us know what we need to know. So, and that's a good thing. We just started up on the Economic Development Commission. I think that'll be going, and we had some, obviously Chuck mentioned we had some issues trying to get the right people involved and to get it off to the start, and it took some, I don't want to say micromanaging, but some diligence to get that done. So that to me, that's a good commission. The last one is tourism, and I'm not sure it's not duplicative. And we belong to a county tourism board that does those type of things. We need to encourage those people that are interested in local tourism to participate in that board. And I think making that board effective, or get rid of the county board and have a local board. But we don't need two of them to spread the wealth. And I think with the money that's available from the governments on tourism, it probably behooves us to just have one and make it as effective as possible. I do like the idea that Chuck suggested recently and brought up tonight, that we need to look at our long-term objectives in the strategic, or I get it wrong here. The 10-year, it's not the 10-year strategic plan, or it's 10-year.
Oh, airport master.
No, our 10-year general plan. That's what I think we need to look at our general plan for the next 10 years and figure out which areas we need help and need input from the public on a regular basis. And for the non-regulatory boards, that's where we should focus our efforts. And believe me, there's going to be plenty of work to do in the next 2 years for our strategic plan as well as our 10-year plan. So that's kind of where I am. And I'm not sure where we go next with this discussion, Chuck. You've gotten some guidance?
Well, I just jotted down some notes based, on what you all are talking about and some of the data and the planning that we're looking at. And I just wrote down 10 commissions. Okay. Now, I don't know where this goes, but obviously planning and zoning, parks, recreation. Why not add library to that? I mean, it's in the department already. So economic development, community preservation and revitalization, which is looking beyond just the West End, but other neighborhoods and that kind of thing. Public facilities are buildings, and Cody might be a part of that. Public transportation. Environmental affairs, because there is energy and water and that kind of thing. It is in the general plan. Marketing, public information, youth, obviously, and then a cultural aspect, which could include art in public places, cultural diversity, and those kind of things. So they kind of fit into the general planning scheme. They align with kind of what you're doing now in a lot of areas, but are certainly much broader in scope than the narrow focus that most of them have right now. So, if you would like, Mr. Mayor, I can work with staff to kind of define some of these ideas a little bit more. And obviously, it's going to need more council discussion before we get to where we need to be. But we can throw some more concrete ideas together in terms of what they would do, and then maybe start working on missions and those kind of things. And hopefully by next strategic plan, you'll have something to really mull over. But we can move more quickly if you want.
Discussion on that proposal. I think that's a good way forward. And I would hope that each one of us would talk to Chuck about any particular things that we noticed on our commission that we think needs to be protected, preserved, enhanced, whatever the phrase is, and share that with him. Yes.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. An idea, and I like what Chuck just said and how, and staff's recommendation. We're gonna have a retreat coming up after this next election, going into next year, doing our 2-year strategic plan. When we break out of that and staff goes into the how, we kind of just there. I think maybe if we add a couple hours to our retreat and focus on the same issues, even once we have what they're called. Here's what our strategic plan is now. Staff's running with it on the how. How can we turn this into the commissions that we decide and get them missions for those 2-year periods? And that way we don't ever have a community member come into a meeting saying, what are we doing? Because we don't give them anything.
Well,
So maybe when
to me, each of the commissions has a written mission already.
Roger.
Okay, whether they understand that, whether it's applicable anymore, that's another issue, and I think that's what probably needs to be discussed.
Roger.
And again, I'm making the assumption that the way it's gonna be, we do the 2-year strategic plan, and Chuck is saying we need to fold that into the 10-year publicly approved plan, which will happen after that.
Roger.
So, yeah, your 10 years are up. We gotta do another community plan. And I think tying them together is probably a good thing to do. Whether we put the cart before the horse and do it earlier or later, that's a determination that the council's gonna have to make.
And I just have a
But
suggestion.
this is a first good step. I think we need to give staff time to chew on a little bit, and come back to us maybe before we go to the strategic plan, because normally that's what, end of February, 1st of March?
Yeah, so you're talking 5-6 months.
Yeah, so
we can move faster.
Yeah, we can move faster, but again, I would recommend you do that early in the year or late this year to get comment, because we're gonna know in November who's gonna be on the council, and there's nothing wrong with having them sit informally with us to talk about it. Okay.
And then just an idea, Mr. Mayor, because we haven't really talked about the youth commission. The majority of our middle schools and the high schools have student body council, vice presidents and presidents.
Well, let me talk, I didn't talk about the youth commission, but one of the things Mark and I have talked about is we're going to the principals and making the recommendation that it be a student that's already involved in the student councils, et cetera. And the other issues, of course, place of meeting, time of meeting, for the kids in the middle school, how do they get transportation? So it's gonna be an unusual commission, because we may be calling on the Parks Department or somebody else to basically make a circuit and pick up middle school kids to make sure they get a meeting if it's during the week, or maybe meeting on Saturdays for pizza, or whatever it may be.
We got
But I mean,
gators and bands.
It's gotta be a unique thing that's suited to draw the youth in.
Yes, sir, I agree.
And that's different from all the other, obviously different from all the other adult-based commissions we have. So we're taking that into consideration and wrestling with that bear, aren't we, Mark?
We've had one youth holder honor that been helping out, holding down that one.
Who is it?
We definitely gotta get her involved.
Who is it?
Get her, pick her brain and ask her, how we can do better. We owe her that.
Any final comments from the council on this issue? Any final comments from staff or Chuck, any wisdom?
No, I think I've got an idea where to go, so.
Okay. Let's go back to the agenda, see where we're at. Okay, then we'll go on to report on recent meetings, trips, future meetings. And we all got back from or most of us got back from the League of Cities and Towns last week, which I think was a pretty good conference. Although I didn't see much new, I guess I've been here too long. Anybody have any comments on recent trips, meetings, future meetings?
Well, in a couple of weeks, I'll be at the World Transit Summit.
Yeah, that's a future, yeah.
Yeah, that's the next.
That's a future meeting, okay.
No, sorry, trip. It's a future trip.
Yeah, okay.
Are we gonna have written reports from all those that attended?
If in fact they spent over $1,000, yes. That's what the law says.
Yeah, you'll have it.
You have to do a written report. If it was less than that, it's the option of the council member.
I saw that, is anybody going to there's a border, that we all got the email about it for the mayor. They're trying to get all the border cities to meet. I'll get with, I'll make sure you said the
I
email.
don't remember seeing that.
It's in October, I think. Okay.
Okay, all right,
I'll make sure you get that email.
okay.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't just me.
And where were they gonna meet? Yuma?
I'm not sure.
I figure it's the farthest
Yeah.
personal place away. Are they gonna meet in Flagstaff?
I think it's Mexicali.
Mexicali?
They're gonna go to Riggs Lake. How about Rocky Point?
Okay,
Okay, I'll go.
future discussion items or council requests for the staff? Going once? Going twice? Marta, anything from you?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, hearing nothing, meeting's adjourned, thank you, see you Thursday.
Angelica, she talks a lot.